Hey y'all, if you're leaking and you feel like these symptoms just completely came out of nowhere, like all of a sudden you can't make it to the bathroom without a few dribbles along the way, or every time you cough or sneeze or laugh, there's a very strong stream running down your legs, then you are definitely not alone, and today's video is for you. So listen, I talked to a lot of women, and what I found is that very rarely is leakage the very first sign or the only signal that something's going on with your pelvic health. Rarely is leakage the only thing going on if there is a problem with your pelvic health. And so our body is like this built-in GPS system. It's constantly firing off signals, but when we're busy with work schedules and kids schedules and what to make for dinner, it can be really easy to dismiss those signals until you end up with a really big problem like leakage. So in today's video, I'm going to go over why those SOS signals are so important, what they mean, and what are some early signs that you could be missing that can potentially lead to leakage and what you can do about it. So let's get into it. All right. So before we get into what these SOS signals are and what SOS actually stands for, I first want to talk about why we're missing these signals in the first place. And so number one is a fast-paced life. Like we are all super busy. And if you have a partner or you have kids or you're the caretaker for someone, it's really easy to suppress your needs because you're caring for everyone else. So like I mentioned earlier, between work stress and schedules, I have peers and friends and people that I speak to all the time. Our calendars are packed. Like some people have color-coded calendars for each kid. There's a practice here and a tryout there. And so those things become like static in our lives. Even though they're super important, we all love our children, we all love our families, they can also kind of be distractions from us paying attention to ourselves. And so we've heard it before, you can't fill or you can't do anything from an empty cup. That saying that I'm probably messing up right now, but you get the point. If you don't take care of yourself, you definitely can't take care of those around you. And so again, when those things become irritating to you, when it's time to take care of you and you're like, I don't have time for that, that is a red flag because your body is trying to tell you, hey, something's going on here. This is something you need to pay attention to, but it's really easy to miss those signals when you're bogged down with everyone else's problems. And so number two, one of the other reasons that we miss these signals is because our culture kind of rewards this hustle mentality, this push through. Like you're rewarded for not sleeping and staying up late, checking emails at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. If you're in a somewhat toxic work environment or you have a supervisor that doesn't value your time away from work, then you're definitely just not going to have that boundary. You're rewarded. It's almost like a pat on the back when you're constantly responding to emails and messages and deadlines. Like, again, there just is no boundary. You're off, but you're getting phone calls, on vacation. That is a cultural, there's an acceptance that comes with that in our culture. And it is a really big problem. I used to work in that kind of work environment. And believe me, it wasn't healthy and it led to a lot of burnout for me personally. So I know exactly how that feels. But again, our system rewards that type of behavior. And so again, if you're constantly taking care of everyone else's needs, you're never going to hear your own personal body signals that, hey, something is off. And lastly, we miss signals because we just simply learn to override them, or we don't even believe that these signals are important. And so this is where our belief system comes in. Some of the things around us in our culture that we truly believe allow us to not seek out support, allow us to think that some of the common things are actually normal things. So I'm always going to go back to some of the main things that I hear women say is that I thought this was normal. I thought this happens after you have kids. My mom and sister have this problem. Oh, me and my friends laugh about, having to cross our legs every time we cough, sneeze, or laugh. So again, there's a level of acceptance that comes around leakage and pelvic health problems. And again, if I had a dime for every time someone said to me, like, I never even knew you existed, I never even knew there was something that I could do about this, that again is a red flag, because that means if you don't know that there's something you can do about it, you're going to accept that you leak, you're going to accept that you have pain with sex, you're going to accept that you can't have a bowel movement every day, you're going to accept the pressure that you feel in your bladder, the pressure that you feel in your pelvis when you're standing in the line at the grocery store. you're going to accept those things because, again, your belief system just doesn't know otherwise. And one more thing that I'll add to this acceptance that we have in our culture is the use of pads. Like, we have commercials where it's almost celebrated to wear pads for incontinence or urine leakage rather than seeking professional support to stop it. It's like, hey, let's put this Band-Aid on this problem. You just come to this age where this is what you need in life, and I'm just going to make the most comfortable, most supportive, most driest pad that I can make out there for you to buy this product and never truly deal with the problem. So again, there's this level of acceptance around leakage and what we should just accept as a normal part of life. And again, if you don't know that there's anything that you can do about it, you're always going to have an extra pair of underwear with you. You may pack your car with an extra change of clothes, and this is just your way of coping with something that you think is part of, normal life, normal aging, things that happen after childbirth. All right, so SOS. This is my way of helping you remember some of the signs that you need to look out for. And I just want to add, before we get into the acronym one more time, that leakage is not normal. I mentioned before that some people think that it's normal as a part of aging or after childbirth. And I want you to take away that it is not normal. It's common, but it's definitely not something that you have to deal with. So the first S in SOS stands for soreness or pain. So pain is usually a very important indicator that something is going on in your pelvic health. And the pain does not have to be exclusive or limited to your vagina. There is rectal pain, vaginal pain, low back pain. So I want to harp on this for a second. There is a very high correlation of low back pain and urinary incontinence or urine leakage. And so I hear it all the time. A lot of my clients say, oh, I've had back pain for years, and they kind of dismiss it. But that could be one of the first signs that something's going on in your pelvic health. So low back pain, even hip pain, abdominal pain, pain in your bladder after you pee, those are all signs and those first signals that your pelvic floor is like, hey, something's going on. Excuse me. And one of the reasons that happens is because your pelvic floor is part of your core. So all the muscles and tendons that connect to your pelvis can indicate that there are issues in other places outside of your pelvis. So part of your core is your abdominal muscles, your back muscles, your hip muscles. All of those things work together to support your midsection. So when you have pain in any of those areas, a lot of times it can be linked back to some problems going on in your pelvic floor. So these are things to not bypass. These are things to raise your hand about, to ask about. Experiencing low back pain and just kind of dealing with that is definitely not something that you want to do. And it could be one of the very first signals that something's going on in your pelvic health. All right, next we have O, and O stands for out of the blue leaks. And so again, I'm going to say it again. You hear me say it all the time. I've said it in this video at least 5 times already. Leakage is not normal. And so although it may feel like it's out of the blue, typically there could be a buildup. Typically there are other signs before the leakage happens that something's going on with your pelvic health. So I like to say that anytime something's coming out of your body and you're not on the toilet, that is definitely a flag that something is wrong. And so leakage can occur when you're trying to get to the bathroom. And I'll say this, there is an umbrella of leakage. I have learned dealing with multiple clients and many women that all leakage is not created equal. Some people feel like there's a normal amount, just the few drops that escape when you're laughing. They think that that's normal. It's not. Some people have full-blown loss of control, like they just cannot hold anything. That's also not normal. And then some people feel like they can shut it off a little bit, but then there's this stream that still escapes if they laugh a little too hard or sneeze consecutively. Maybe they can make it through the first sneeze, but that second and third sneeze, something's coming out. All of that falls under the umbrella of incontinence. So whether it's leakage or a dribble or a stream, all of it is not normal. And so anything that, again, seems like it's out of the blue or it has progressively worsened over time, that is definitely a flag that something is going on in your pelvic health. So the last S in SOS stands for skipping or strategizing around symptoms. And I have to tell you, this is where a lot of women go wrong because it logically makes sense. You know, you feel like, okay, if I don't jump or I don't squat, then I won't leak. And for some people, maybe that works for a little bit, but those are very specific positions and activities that we just have to do. You have to squat to tie your shoes. You need to bend over to lift things. You know, you need to bend down to pick up things. And so avoiding squatting actually contributes to more leaks because you're shutting off an entire portion of your body and an entire skill that you need to be able to use to do multiple things. So when you start finding yourself skipping positions, skipping exercises, maybe you're at a birthday party with your kids and you're like, I'm not getting on that trampoline with those kids because I know I'm going to leak. Those are signs. That's part of that SOS that something's going on. Another one that's very common is the just in case peeing. And I actually have a YouTube video that I'll put the link in the description box around why peeing just in case or some of these behaviors and habits actually contributes to more leakage and more issues like urinary urgency and frequency. So if you're someone who goes right before you leave the house, maybe when you arrive at your destination, like a doctor's appointment, and then one more time before you leave, you're actually contributing to the problem and you're limiting your bladder capacity. We should be going to the bathroom because we feel the urge to go to the bathroom, not because we're trying to empty our bladder, because guess what? Our bladder is never completely empty. So these are all ways that we think we're strategizing. We're feeling like, okay, if I can get my bladder empty, I'm not going to leak. But then, like I said, surprise, the bladder's never empty. So that really isn't a physiological good plan. It may logically make sense, but the way our body works, it's just really not a good plan. When you start finding yourself strategizing around your symptoms, that's another, again, red flag that something's going on with your pelvic health. It's also a huge reason to get connected with a professional. So this is where I come in. It is okay to get the support. You are not supposed to figure this out on your own. You are not supposed to just know how to do this and resolve your symptoms. And I think this is where a lot of women get stuck because they don't want to raise their hand. Yes, it's embarrassing. Yes, it's difficult to talk about. But if you don't talk about it, you're not going to get relief, so maybe we have to get over that embarrassing hurdle in the beginning, but the outcome that you will get and the improved life that you'll get and the freedom that you'll gain from speaking up is just completely priceless. And so you want to make sure that you're getting the right support because you may be one of the fortunate ones that finds some exercises online and feels like that is, a way to kind of manage your symptoms, but you're doing just that, managing the symptoms versus resolving the symptoms. And so getting with a professional and getting the correct and the right support for your problem is super important because, again, leakage is not the only sign that something's going on in your pelvic health. And the right person and the right professional will be able to tease out what other things are kind of aligning, with the leakage or contributing to the leakage. And so you want to eliminate all of that. You don't want to address just one symptom. You want to be looked at as a whole person so that your pelvic health improves overall. All right, so why does all of this matter? Why do these signs matter for your pelvic health? Well, number one, when you know better, you can do better. When you know what's normal versus common, when you know what's abnormal, you can really be a true advocate for yourself. You can speak up to your doctor. You can speak up for yourself, even if it has nothing to do with your doctor, to say, hey, I know this isn't normal and I want to get help for it now. Because when you're in tune to your body, when you're not ignoring the signals, you are more likely to speak up. You're not going to ignore this stuff because you're like, hey, this is a huge problem. This affects my life, and so I want to do something about it, and when you're in tune again and you're not distracted, you're able to do that a lot more willingly and a lot more openly. And then let's face it, leakage is looked at as a very physical problem, but it also has some emotional and social ties. So when you're leaking, that impacts what you wear, it impacts how you feel in your clothes, it impacts where you go. A lot of times when women start to experience leakage, they can make their world very small. They may not leave the house, only for a certain amount of time. They may decline car trips and car rides with their girlfriends because they feel like, if there's no near restroom or no close restroom nearby, they are just not going to go. It also affects your level of intimacy with your partner. There are women who experience leakage during sex. And so when that starts to happen, that impacts your confidence. It can kind of shut you off from intimacy from your partner. And then ultimately, we all know that's going to affect your relationship. So leakage has some very long arms that extend well beyond the actual physical part of just, wetness and a stream going down your legs. So it's super important. And that's a major issue, that needs to be addressed. And again, when we know better, we do better. And so when you're familiar with these signals, you won't ignore them and you will definitely speak up a lot sooner. So what do we do instead? So there are 3 things I want you to remember that you can do instead of ignoring my SOS signals. So number 1, I just said it, don't ignore these symptoms. I think that's pretty loud and clear after watching today's video, that if you don't take anything else away, these are things that you should not ignore. Because here's the truth. When we don't pay attention or stop to listen to the small things or the small little nuances, then they become really, really big things that usually are more difficult to address. So if we're not listening to like the small whispers that are coming from our body finds a way to start screaming at us until we start to pay attention. And usually those screams can come in the form of a huge accident in a public space, or even pain that's so severe you don't want to get out of bed in the morning. So none of us want that. You don't want to wait until your body's screaming at you for you to do something about it. So number 1, you don't want to ignore your symptoms. All right. So number 2 is setting aside intentional one-on-one time. So this is your time to figure out what recharges you. This is your time to slow down. Even if it's 5 minutes, I always use the example of meditation, prayer, stretching, whatever that 5 minutes looks like. This is your time to connect with yourself one-on-one, because the deeper connection that you have, the faster you'll be able to hear these signals, the more quiet you can become to hear these signals, so that when something's off, these patterns, you start to know what's normal for you, so that when something's not normal, it sticks out like a sore thumb. And if you're not setting aside one-on-one time for yourself, then again, it's going to feel like static. It's going to be irritating anytime you're supposed to be taking care of yourself, because you're taking care of everyone else around you, and the cycle continues. So definitely make sure that number 2, you are setting aside one-on-one time for yourself. All right. So the third and final thing that I want you to do instead of ignoring the signals is to get support. So again, I've said that a few times in this video, but you want to get professional support to address the leakage. So very rarely do I guarantee anything, but I will say this: if you ignore the leakage, it will worsen. This is not something you can work around. You have to get through it. It has to be addressed head on. And like I mentioned earlier, leakage is typically not the only thing or the only sign that something's going on with your pelvic health. And a professional will help you tease that out so we can address the root cause of the leakage and any other contributing factors. All right. So in closing, I want you to take away that your body is not working against you. It can feel like that at times. It can feel like a betrayal when things aren't working the way that they used to. But I want you to remember that your body does typically send you warning signs and signals. We just have to slow down enough to listen and be in tune enough that we hear those signals. And so the signals are not there to scare you. They're really here to guide you. So in closing, if any of this resonates with you and you want a holistic plan to stop your leakage and also address any other pelvic floor symptoms or pelvic health symptoms, you can click the link in my description to apply for us to work one-on-one together. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any future videos. And if you don't mind, share with a friend that you know needs to hear this. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.